Hi and welcome to Weld Nerd, where today we're going to continue our discussion about AC balance. Part 1 we discussed aluminum oxide and some of its properties and why we want to get rid of it. Part 2 we talked about why we use AC and in specific what the electrode positive portion of the cycle does for us when we're welding aluminum. And here in Part 3 we're going to discuss finding balance settings that are good for the specific material that you're using. If we were a little more dramatic, we'd call it finding the balance. But we're just calling it balance settings because we're kind of more plain speak than that. Pretty much all I'm going to do is I'm going to weld 3 bits on this extruded piece of 6061 using 4043, 120 hertz frequency, saw square waveform, 332 seriated tungsten, and I'm going to do one at 90% balance, which is probably pretty high, one at 75%, which is the Pro set, and one at 60%, and we're going to look at the difference. So. Try to take some arc shots of it, and hopefully if we can get in close enough you can see the etching on the outside of the actual weld zone itself. So that's what we're looking for. So without further ado. All right, so even at a distance you can see the difference between 90%, 75%, and 60% in terms of the width of the etch zone. So let's zoom in and we'll take a closer look at them. So here we were welding with 4043, as you might be able to tell by the shininess there, and on this first bead we were set at 90% balance. So at 90% balance, if we look at this etch zone, in certain areas it's basically non-existent. In other areas you've just got just the thinnest haze. And what's most important as you're trying to find a balance setting that's right where you need it to be is around here on the front. So if we come to the front and we take a moment to ignore this crater and the little hair that I left on the front there, you'll see that there's barely any etching on the leading edge. So there's no oxide being pushed away in front of the weld. And what that results in is as you travel forward, you pick up the oxide as well as any contaminants that might be present in it. And I'm not sure if this comes up. I'll try to get a nice still photo of it, but this bead has a whole lot of speckling, peppering, and just kind of some smut in there. And we definitely want to avoid that. So this would be an indication of too high a balance setting, too much time electrode negative, not enough electrode positive. All right, so in this one, this is set at 75%, which is the Pro set. And as you can see, we have a much more robust etched zone on the outside of the weld, and most specifically here at the leading edge. You can see that outer kind of lacy bit, but we also have a very dense inner focused etched area. So that's what we want. That's what we want to see in front. You can also tell that overall this is a much cleaner, shinier surface on this bead, indicating that we've got certainly enough balance. So you might, if you were testing, go a little bit further, jump to a lower balance setting and see if that works out better for you when you're trying to zone in on this. Finally, we've got 60% balance, which as you can see is a very dense, much wider etch zone all the way around. Now that etch zone in itself is not necessarily detrimental to the weld bead, but what you would have over time is considerably more balling of the tungsten, as well as you can see there's a little bit hazier than the previous one at 75%. That's because that electrode positive, the ionic bombardment that occurs in that part of the cycle, is just a little bit more energetic than necessary. We're spending a little bit too much time there, so we're hazing over our weld just a little bit. So all that being considered, if I were doing this, I would select 75% as the better of the 3 here. And you could hone it down a little bit more, but for the sake of being quick, that should suffice. Well, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. As always, feel free to comment in the comment section. Please subscribe if you want to see more of this content in the future. I hope it was of value to you, and we'll continue to bring you more interesting videos from this insanely cluttered shop of mine. Thank you.